Over 30 plus years of teaching guitar, many of my students have asked about the best way to learn the notes on the guitar. You may have even asked that question yourself. Very often we get bogged down when we're learning guitar with Mahusive scale patterns and music theory when it's all really a lot simpler than you think. In this video I'm going to show you how to easily navigate your way through the notes on the guitar fretboard so that you can quickly find root notes for chords and scales and arpeggios, tonic notes for keys by using a concept you might not have used before in your learning and your practice called chunking. Hey guys, we're looking at another method to memorize the fretboard. Now this is a really cool one, extremely powerful. The way we're going to do this is by using a technique called chunking. And as we know, our musical alphabet goes A, B, C. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this in a vertical line here. A, B, C, D, E, F, and then we're going to go G, because this accurately represents a string, and you can see it looks like that going up there. I did a workshop on this, but I figured that 45-minute workshop could probably be condensed down into a shorter video. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this idea of chunking, and the idea is, how do you eat an elephant? Apart from them being endangered species, and we wouldn't do that, the way we would do that hypothetically is we would cut it up into small bite-sized pieces that we can manage to chew. Do with this information here. This looks horrendous as it is, and actually if you've ever seen the fretboard maps that have got the sharps and the flats in and all that nonsense, those are even more horrendous. So how do we break it down? We break it down into chunks. Now what we'll see is that we get A, B and C. I'm going to draw these fret wires in between those there, and then hopefully you will see that a pattern emerges in there if I put these here together. Now it was important from the last lesson that I showed you that B and C and E and F were neighbours, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it into some different chunks. So this is the first chunk that we're going to do. This is why this video is called This is as easy as A, B, C. Now this gap here is 1 fret or a half step, but between the A and the B, what happens is we get 1 step, which is 2 frets. We can see that there. And then between B and C, we can see that is a half step, and that is 1 fret. So we're going to use these little units of measurement to help us to build these chunks. Now what we've got is we've got a gap in between this here, and hopefully you can start to see that the pattern that we have for the A, B, C is actually the same pattern that we have for the D, E, F. This is going to be 1 step, this is going to be a half step. But in between the C to the D, we could think of that as being 1 step as well. So we've got this gap here that we can put in there, and then what we have is this lonely G here. This G is on its own. In my workshop I called this the G is the gangster that has no crew to hang out with. A, B, C, D, E, F. This, it goes up 1 step again, and this is always the same, guys. It never changes, never alters. We get the lonely G here, and then we go up a whole step again, and we get back to A, B, C. So hopefully you can see that we've got exactly the same pattern there as we have there, and there's just always going to be 1 step in between them. Now there is something that goes in that step, and those are sharps and flats, and if you want to learn more about that, then watch this video here. But the thing to come away with it is that we only have 3 chunks that we need to be able to consume. This is chunk 1, this is chunk 2, and this is the smallest of the chunks, chunk 3. The lonely G, that gangster all on his own. So what we've got to do now is we've got to take this information, and I'm going to use my trusty highlighters, and I'm going to take the ABC here. I'm going to show you how these chunks all fit together. Let's get this blue one on for the D, E and the F, and then we'll have this green for the lonely G. So using this, we're just gonna spot out where the A, B, C's are. So let's look at this. So there is the chunk for A, B, C. This is a good way of doing it. If we know this is the A string, then we know it's going to go A, B, C. But if we look up here on the E string, ABC. Now, the thing to remember is anything that happens on the E string here is going to be mirrored on the thin E string as well. So let's just scoot over there and just get that one out of the way there. And you can see it says ABC. Wonderfully easy. And every string will have its own ABC on it. So let's go up the D string, and you can see we have to travel quite far up the neck here to the ABC just there. And then let's look on the G string, not too far up from the head note. That goes ABC there. This is a bit of a tricky one because you notice we get one high up from the 10th fret that goes over the 10th, 12th and the 13th there. And we only get part of it there in the BC. You can think to yourself, okay, we can make another pattern with this. We could have B, C, D, E, F, G, and then have a lonely A. Hopefully that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, rewind it. You can see that you can come up with another way of seeing this. The more ways you have into understanding, then the easier it is for you to absolutely own that knowledge. So we've got the ABCs all done and dusted there. Right, we've got the DEFs. These guys, we'll do them in this blue colour here. So we've got a DEF just there. And then if we go on this one here, DEF again, and we know that we're going to get the DEF just after the ABC because we know our alphabet obviously, but we know that there is a whole step in between the C and the D, and you can see going up there 1 fret 2 fret, which is also known as a step. Brilliant. So let's look at the next string here, G string, A, B, C, up a whole step, and you can see we get D, E, F there. Also on the B string, we get a little bit of a disruption because of the kink in the tuning. We get the D, E, F just there, and then just to complete it off on this thin E string, D, E, F, because it's an E string, we have to bounce that over onto the thick E string as well, and you can see we get D, E, F again. Now the cool thing that you may have noticed is how these pair up next to each other, just like the other fretboard video that if you haven't seen will be in the end screen of this video. Oops, and let me just get these partial ones in, D, E, F, just to be completist. But the thing to notice is how these A, B, C, D, E, Fs work parallel to each other. We get that parallel pattern happening here on the E and the A string, A, B, C, D, E, F. Come over to the next two strings, which are the A and the D string. We get A, B, C, D, E, F. If we come a little bit further up the neck of the guitar, remember from that video we had bead to help us to understand where we were. We could spot that A, and we go A, B, C, D, E, F. And then coming over to this puzzling enigma that is the G to B string, you can see that we have to compensate by going up 1 fret, A, B, C, up 1 fret, D, E, F. Up here, going from the B string to the D string, the pattern is back in its familiar shape of A, B, C, D, E, F. And I kind of think of those as being like Lego blocks. 6 different bits that fit together. So if you imagine a Lego block, it's the ones that you stand on. That silent pain when you stand on one of those guys. So the whole idea here is that we can chunk this down. We only have 3 chunks that we need. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. This A, B, C here, it just repeats again. Oh, I didn't put in the lonely G. Let's just do him on his own. The G is just there, standing out with no other crew members to play with. So hopefully you can see how this all works. It's a cool way of learning your natural notes in a linear manner on the string. We're just looking up the string. And once you've learned how to find these ABCs, then what becomes important is you need to know what goes in there. And to learn about what goes in there, it's going to be sharps and flats. And that's in this video just here.